I just wanted to greet the room and also kind of make sure that it's clear that a lot of this work has already been done. We've surveyed the community many, many times on this. This RFQ is more about action and not really taking the time to survey. We've done that a lot of times, and we've been building this strategy with law enforcement, identifying hotspots that we have already determined and understanding the crime stats. So I just want to make sure that that's understood, that this is not really a restart. Like we've already done this work. This is the action from the surveys and all of the engagement that has already been done.
So the information session for the RFQ is going to be on November 4th, and the location will be to be announced.
It's virtual.
It's virtual. Okay.
And it's on our website as well.
Yeah, and again, we have the QR codes that you all can scan and gain direct access today. All right, at this time, I'm actually gonna kick it over to our guest speaker. Okay.
I'm doing well, how are you?
How's everybody doing tonight?
All right.
Good, good. You know, one of the things for me that I did want to discuss and talk about is I want to have a very open discussion. You know, I'm not one of those people that says, I know what everybody needs, because I don't know. Your neighborhood and community is very specific to you.
Flying over the people.
You see me?
There you go. Say hi.
Hey, how's everybody? All right, now you can see me. So I'm one of those people, I try to be, I try to bring everybody together for a consensus to see what are the issues, what's going on. But the one thing I do know that everybody wants to have is safe communities. And I know businesses need to have the opportunity to be able to have safe communities to make money. And so how do we do that together as a team? That's very important. So I want to give you a little bit of an understanding what we do in the state's attorney's office. You know, from the state's attorney's office, it's not about just running out, locking up people and sending everybody to jail. That's not who we are. It's about focusing on the right individuals who are breaking the law and holding them accountable. And not everybody that we find who's broken the law has to go to jail. But what is everybody we feel needs to be held accountable? For instance, we've really focused since I've been in office on violent repeat offenders of guns. I've made no ifs, and buts. I even said, bring your toothbrush. If you're a violent repeat offender, you have a gun. But those are the individuals we focused on. We found that 5,000 to 6,000 violent repeat offenders that were the ones committing the murders and were the victims of the murders. And we focused on those individuals. My 3 years here, almost 3 years, we removed almost 3,000 of them from the community. And a lot of the times they went to prison for 5 years without the possibility of parole. They're coming home, they need to have jobs, they need to have opportunities when they come home. Now, some of them have been convicted of some more serious heinous crimes, such as murder, and they may not come home for longer. However, we believe in removing the right people from the area, from the community, we have the opportunity to be safer. And that's one of the reasons we think we've seen the crime numbers drop, because 40% of those individuals that have been removed, they would have been the victims of the murders, and almost another 40%, they were the perpetrators of the murders. So when they're now removed from the community, now we have some sense of a little safer community. Going from 300 plus murders, now today I think it's 109. So that's the first step. But now you have that, we have to now talk about the quality of life crimes, the loiterings, the trespass, the robberies, the assaults, things like that. And so what do we do with those? It's one of the things we put together a citation docket. We now ask the police, if they write a citation, an individual isn't arrested, they're given a citation, whether it's from drug possession, And that person then would be able to come to court. We would give them 5 hours of community service and we'd offer them services. So for instance, say the police stop an individual that has a piece of crack cocaine and we know at that moment in time, the officer then can confiscate the cocaine or heroin, whatever the drug is. They can write them the citation instead of incarcerating and locking them up. And then when they come to court, then we would direct them to their services. That's part of the things we try to do as well. But let's say we have a community and a community that's sitting here and saying, we're up here in Park Heights and we have a lot of issues, guys sitting on the corner selling drugs. One of the things we have prosecutors who are focused specifically on the community here. And they understand, they work with the police, they have a special relationship with the police. Therefore, they try to have a better relationship to say, hey, we need to make sure that we have the officers looking at what's going on in this neighborhood. We can do it a number of different ways. Police can even do more patrols. We've worked with them. We may have other ways where instead of building bigger cases against some of the individuals, they can have something such as a camera they put out there to videotape and see what's going on. So for us, it's working with the community in a number of ways, like I said, not just incarceration, but focusing on the quality of life crimes and focus on working together collaboratively. And those are the things we really try to do. With various neighborhoods we've been around, we try to talk about those things. Another tool that we're trying to use, it hasn't been quite as successful yet, but we're moving in that direction. We realize that a lot of young people, or not just young people, some of the people out there selling drugs or hustling, they may get locked up. And then when they go and after they're locked up, they see the commissioner or judge may release them right back to the community. Let's say from the east side, but they're over here selling drugs. Well, our argument, and we're asking the court to have stay away orders from the various neighborhoods. Because if you don't live here, then you feel that you don't have a right or you shouldn't be here in the standard. So we're trying to get more judges to issue those stay away orders. They're not always as receptive, but it's one of the things that we feel that we can also give the community an opportunity. Because now let's say you have an individual that's released on bail, but they have a stay away order to stay away from the community. But they don't live here, so there's really no reason for them to be here. The animal doesn't live here, no family on the west side, anything, their whole east side. But their friends included they hang with just happen to be over here on the west side. At that moment in time, let's say if they have a stay away order, and the police officer sees them, the police officer knows, hey, I just arrested them 2 days ago. And my understanding is they asked for a stay away. They can look to see there is a stay away. The officer can go talk to that person, the body on camera, videotapes it, then they can reach out to us. And then my office would file the paperwork and a request to revoke bail because they had violated the terms. And so there are many different ways we're trying to go ahead and use the tools in the toolbox to try to keep communities safe. I think the biggest thing for us to agree on is that we're just not going to rush our way out of it. We try to partner with all the various groups that we have out there who do good work, and that to me is very, very important. Because at the end of the day, prosecution is not going to be the end all to be all. We can help you there. We get time period, but then what can you do to build businesses, to build a community? And that comes with everybody who's in this room, but also the people who are living in it. So real quick, that's a nutshell what we're doing. But like I said, the big thing for me is I'm here to answer the questions to find out what are some of your questions, what are your concerns, what are some things you'd like to see us do. Any questions?
A whole bunch of questions.
Okay. All right.
I'm a business owner and a homeowner
Okay.
in this community. I've been since 2020. Not really familiar with it, I can't think because all of you, like especially what I'm doing. What I've seen over the years is aggressive police tactics to non-aggressive to no one doing nothing. And I know we can't look into a individual's mind and say why they here, why they young guys, older guys, or girls hanging out for businesses. But what I do see is that there's a lot of businesses up here who are trying to make it, but the individuals are hanging around in stores. And they may not have a budget to have security to help maintain that crime or to mitigate out their stores. Yet still you have a lease or mortgage to keep your business going. Is there any partnership or any way? Because I know police got stuff to do, I know police officers. But what would you suggest from a prosecution side to keep these people from hanging out in front of people's stores or businesses Because we taxpayers. Even in front of my house, up and down the street, police will come. And I know it's not their job to police all day long, because they got other bigger crimes to handle. But people, they'll come through, they'll move, and they're right back in the house. So how can we as a community try to help mitigate those things? Or what can we do better? Because a lot of people are scared because we don't have the police or enough police to help us out. Or what have you, opposed to I can call, they'll leave, they stay on.
Yeah.
Right, and now we have, like you said, people are now coming home. And I know you're offering reentry services to these people, but they right back into the same thing all over again. And we can't change their mindset. We know we can't change their mindset. I know we don't want to lock everybody up and make it go away. But is there anything you can suggest to us to help us out? Like, because people won't call. You said police not doing it. And then I see the influence of the gas stations, of course. And but it's like certain businesses, they won't go away. Other businesses, they just trash it. And we just don't know what really to do. Say, hey, like, you know, respect our business. People are paying taxes. You do what you do. Like, you don't want on your own, but I don't know. We're just trying to figure that out.
I understand. It's very frustrating because, you know, I watched the pendulum swing to over policing. We had a consent decree to just no police. When I came in, I said, look, we can enforce these quality of life crimes. What you're talking about, the loitering, the trespassing, those assaults, the drug visit, those are the quality of life crimes. And I just talked about the citation docket. I recognize we don't have enough police because you don't want the police making an arrest on a trespass and then taking this person down to Central Boat. We don't want us to do that, right? But if the police write a citation, then our thought and belief is then that person will then come to a court and it's 5 hours community service. It's not a lot, but it's just enough to say you can't be there. So the issues that we've run into, one is the, you know, they say, well, they don't have their identification. If a person doesn't have their identification, as far as I'm concerned, at least I thought, maybe then the police may have to take them in to identify them, because for all you need to know, there's a warrant for their arrest. So, but you have to on the police in that regard. But my thing is, we've put together a tool so that the police do not violate the consent decree, that they can do the policing, that they can give the neighborhood what they need. You, unfortunately, I think, voice that opinion to the people, whether it's City Hall, your city council member, you voice that opinion to say you want us the citation docket. You know, when you have the opportunity in CRC meetings, talk to the police to say, hey, what are we doing here? I know the police are trying to write more citations, I get it. But also for our standpoint is we built a system that person is standing out there, maybe they don't have a job, they don't have a GED. Guess what? Our program, once you do the 5 hours community service, now they come to the community and clean up your community, clean up their community. The same community they sitting out there hustling, eating their chip bag, leaving it right there, drinking their drinks, leaving it right there. You come clean up that the community at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. They don't want to be there, but they have to. Once they're there, they clean up. And then we give them these services at the same time period. And we find out most of the individuals do want a job. Okay, we have job training, we've reached out, job, readiness programs. And so for me, we can work on this together. But you also have to let the police know, hey, what are you doing about the citation docket? The police will also tell you, well, we have to give a warning. Well, they give a warning, but then that same person comes right back. So now another officer who's never seen them, what does that look like? I think we have to find a way to make sure that we're able to be proactive with that. But I'm a big believer, if we walk past the problem gets bigger. And so that's why we put together the citation docket, so that it's not going to lead to mass incarceration, but allows the police to have the opportunity to enforce the laws, but gives that individual an opportunity to figure out what they need so they can do better.
So the citation docket, how many times can an offender or person, I won't say offender, how many times a person repeat before the next step is taken, or is there a certain amount of time? It's the first time I hear about the citation docket. Well, so I'm just trying to find out.
Okay, the first time the police stop, they write the person's citation. They come in as 5 hours community service. But let's say they're out there doing the same thing. The second time, they write them another citation, it's 10 hours community service. The third time, we're prosecuting. Because you had 2 shots already. You just decided you don't want to follow the law. Now, let's be clear. The law is still on the books. Technically, you could still go to jail for some of these. We don't want to send you. But if you keep saying, I'm going to do what you want to do, then we have to hold you accountable for that. And so our focus is we can't let you do that because people want to have businesses, people live in these neighborhoods, people have a right to walk up and down the street safely. And so from our standpoint, it's a three strikes to the out. Third time, we're not playing with you and we're going to make sure we prosecute you. But the first two times, we're trying to do everything we can. But if you decide you don't want to do that, then that's a decision you've made. You have to be held accountable.
With that citation doc, is it, you mentioned also the stay away, some of the stay away, if you don't live in the neighborhood, you said that some judges are kind of like not want to do that. Will that come with, does it compound it together or is that later?
But they're two separate things. Stay away is something we could exercise, per se, if they're out there selling drugs, they've been arrested for drug dealing or something like that. We can ask for a stay away from the neighborhood, from the block, and that's some of the issues that we're having with the court. Actually, I'm trying to sit and talk to some of the judges to say, hey, let's say a person pleads guilty to selling drugs out here, but they don't live here, and now they're on probation. We're asking the judges to, and my prosecutors are now asking, and we started this past week, last week, we started asking the court to make a part of their probation. They can't be where they were arrested, stay away. And now if you are, it violates your probation. And the police officer having their body camera would go talk to you. They don't need to arrest you at that moment in time, then give us the material, then we can write the judge and ask for a violation of probation. They can be held accountable that way. However, with the citation docket, it's a little different because we're not arresting or anything. So therefore you can't order a person to get to stay away or something like that. Our hope with the citation docket is that they would see the need to change their behavior unless it's going to lead to the prosecution. After it leads to the prosecution of the trespass, then at that moment in time, we prosecute them for the trespass. That's when we're going to go ahead and ask for it. Okay.
Fixing it the third time.
Yeah, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The other question?
She pretty much.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody, I've heard the story. Somebody. Their life around, back in the neighborhood. And saying, yeah, they got killed. I don't want to be that guy. So I'm going to raise some Clark Heights. Really crimes up here. I've been shot up here a lot of time in prison. I'm home for 5 years. Bring the resources to the community, change the lives of people out there. I just got an office. Even when I leave here, I gotta go back. I got some stuff. And one of my fears is that the dog what he did, and then I'm going there, that's my old neighborhood, and then something happens. So then I gotta have real security just to protect myself and come back to the neighborhood where I grew up at. They got out of time. I got a nonprofit that'll suck everything else. And a lot of times I feel safe. Even though I come from this reason, I ain't used to like the police. I was a criminal. And I see the police sitting in the park, I said, wow, I'm feeling good, need to protect. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I came here to see what the resources was to have safety at that building. It's going to be an after school program called Alternative. I've been bringing guys in there from the neighbors. Some days they got masks, so this is the chance I got to take to give back to. I just want to be safe while I'm doing. Family to be safe when they kids and parents who trust me with their kids to feel the police presence. You know what I'm saying? I'm almost to the point where it's just like, I don't get the resources to help. Full-time security to be there every day we live. And I almost feel like I shouldn't have to do it in my community where I'm born and raised. That's just how it is.
And I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm here all over the city. Guys that one way, turn their life, want to give back 1000%. We support all that. I think what also you have to have real conversation with people in the community. I think one of the things you find out is the children are those people who you grew up with. Those are their kids. And I think it's real big for us. And I'm real big, I'd say, lift as you climb. But you also got to have those conversations because I'm sure you go ahead and see your friends and their children are doing A, B, C, and D. And there's got to be some sort of rules. I think the other thing is sometimes the community, if it puts its money and resources together, maybe what is, looking at some of the security. Maybe how does that work? I think it shouldn't just be on one business, but what is everybody looking to do? Those are some things that aren't necessarily the purview of the state's attorney's office. And we deal with the crime and the issues, the police have made arrests, they bring it to us, and we prosecute, we not act. But I think you're talking about some real community issues and some real community concerns. That's why I think you go to like the CRC meetings, you know, with the police department, have that conversation and say, okay, how are the police patrolling this general area? And we're doing some programs between 7 and 9 on every, you know, other night. Can we maybe try to have the police do a few more extra patrols at that time period? That's when I think the community have the opportunity to work one-on-one with the police department, to have quote unquote working together. Because the police see what's going on. I think the police also know like, oh, okay, we're wanted here, we're needed here. And
Hello, can you guys hear me?
But then I think at that moment in time, you have a better opportunity, you have a better relationship, not with only with the police, but also with the community at large. I'm a real big believer, if the dudes who are doing bad know that the community is accepting it, then oftentimes they're gonna change it. I'm also a big believer that they didn't come into this world bad, they just didn't. They learned something that's put them on this path. What you find out a lot of times, because they're always on the streets got rules. When the streets know that you don't mean harm, you're really trying to help, then the streets tend to say, you know what? No, they off limits because they're not in the game trying to help, yada, yada, yada. And that's when, you know, the parents come to play, but they're like, yeah, I know, I the high school, we did this, we did that. So I mean, at the end of the day, I'm telling you, bro, you gotta walk. It's hard, but you also sit and have that conversation with the association and with the police. Have those conversations with the police do their job, so they know that I different eyes. I think they're doing a good job. I think you see what people do good for us. We get more blessings out. So that's how they.
Let's stay right there for a second. Appreciate you coming out, Kevin. So Yolanda wanted to comment on the same question that you had. I know that's one of our initiatives with the RFQ, so that we're gonna be safety with our initiative, comprehensive study, looking to find based on the business needs, security team to help secure the corridor. Yolanda, the mic is open.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can?
I can probably up here in the front, and then I'm going to parrot what you say again.
Okay, so I just wanted to also welcome our state's attorney, Ivan Bates. Good to see you. I just wanted to add, you know, add on to the state's attorney. It takes a village to do this work. And everything he said in terms of working with the police department, working with community partners is definitely what we are working on in Park Heights. We look forward to continue partnerships and growing those partnerships. We just had a meeting yesterday with both majors and their teams because we're in 2 districts. And so this is, you know, this conversation tonight and the conversations we had yesterday, I think that will be including not just law enforcement officers, but partners like the state's attorney's office, but we're also looking at partners that we have here already. Safe Streets, we have 2 Safe Street sites in Park Heights. We've brought on We Are Us as a partner and some other violence reduction partners that will all be working with the police department and all of these partners that are here today to really make sure that we're looking at this from a community-based standpoint as well. We're not law enforcement, but we also are mapping out strategies that will include residents. And we got a lot of this information doing charrettes. So we're planning that now, like how do we get each of the 12 neighborhoods and neighborhood watch programs, lighting strategies and other things such as beautifying vacant lots, which we all know are feeding places for public safety issues. So just wanted to really chime in and piggyback on what the state's attorney just said and really talk about some of the things that we have been doing and really working to build and strengthen those relationships with our law enforcement partners so that we can also be partners in this work and they could take care of the tough work in the state's attorney's office. But I just wanted to make sure that that was stated, particularly since I just sat in a 2.5 meeting yesterday, strategy meeting with our law enforcement officers as well.
Thank you. I think one of the things I must say that I'm really excited to see, I'm excited to see everybody in this room.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't be in this room if you weren't trying to fix it, and also on the screen, unless you're really willing to fix the problem. And I think that you do have a plan, and I think in having a plan, then you're a community that's moving in the right direction. It's gonna be hard. Now, one of the things also, the state's attorney's office, I call us, we're like the last resort. By the time you get to us, you got a problem. We gonna probably prosecute you. There's a high likelihood, depending what you did, you could potentially go to jail. Now, we don't want to do that. And I think that you being the community have already said, we're going to protect ourselves, but we're going to do it in a way that's thoughtful. And we're going to also try to lift as we climb, giving services to individuals that have some of these issues that are coming back in the community. Because let me tell you, those 5,000 to 6,000 people that are repeat violent offenders, and we say we put about 3,000 in prison, they're coming home. They have 5 years without the possibility of parole. Research says that you need about 3.5, 4.5 years to really have the opportunity to change your life. But when they come home, if they don't have jobs, if they don't have hope, they don't have opportunity, they're going right back to the streets. When they go to the streets, eventually they're going to have to pick up their guns, and they're going to make some terrible life decisions. And then they're going to take a life, and their life, and we convict them, they're going to go to prison for the rest of their life. And so that's why I think for us as community, part of the community is having the alternatives. Look, you know, I know I'm rough on Safe Streets. It's not that I'm rough on Safe Streets per se, but I will tell you, I do recognize Safe Streets does a good job. They're out there, they're caring. But I've known him for a long time. I know the work that he does. So I know his heart. I know that how he does truly care about what's going on in the community. That's very, very, very important. And I think when you have everybody at the table, and everybody's doing their job, that you have the opportunity to have a beautiful community. Because at the end of the day, you know, when I look at the children, we really want to have communities for our kids to play. We want to be able to let our children play up and outside and not worry where they are every single second. Not worried if they're stepping on a needle, not worried if a stray bullet hits. So I understand, I think you're really moving in the right direction to change that, what's been going on. Any other questions? You have a question?
I didn't have a comment.
Is there any comments or feedback as well?
Comment.
I do have a comment. I'm sorry, I'm Andre Bonafide, everyone knows me. Mr. Sparrows. Ma'am, your question, your statement earlier about the loitering things that's happening. I think one of the questions that sometimes when the state's attorney just kind of hit on it, actually, talking about when people come home, what is the attraction that is drawing people to a specific location? I think that's the question in many regards that needs to be answered in order to be able to change patterns of behavior and things. What is it? Is it drug, some sort of drug situation that's going there? Is it unemployment? Is it unsheltered individuals? So we get to the root cause of those things, like what is the draw? Is the area not a, I don't want to say overly beautified, but is the area conducive to a pattern of behavior that people will congregate to a situation?
Mostly my block is homeless.
Right, I got you, but I'm just throwing that out there because I think that, you know, that's an important question that needs to be asked.
Like why individuals are coming to certain areas, why are they loitering in certain blocks in Park Heights and others?
Well, my honest opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
My opinion. Police ain't doing it.
But that,
I mean, they come, no, they come, and they have made a bunch of flags. They cut off a tree on the corner of the vacant house, so they can see where all the guys are hanging out. They done, some indictments, so a lot of guys were taken away, like, say, they home.
Right.
They cut off the driving access from shoppers and to come through. They just put an 8-foot rod on fence with a container to block people from driving through. But now they are cutting through the lady's fence who citizens on the end of the block at the top. And what they're doing now, they took the alley and then like 2 vacant houses out of the 20 that's left. So they're coming through. And then they died after for a day or 2, or 3. They right back in again. And I even they spray off my corner. They all had boulders outside. They off my rock. I come out there like this, we gotta keep it moving. I'm gonna say what I gotta say, but I'm just saying, I know we don't have enough police. But then people come back home and they'll re-back into the same thing, probably gonna put another night on this, I don't know.
and that goes back to what state kids. It's like when they come back and like, what are they willing to do? What is that person's need? What is bringing them back to?
Well, because the police see that need
My God, is it? You understand what I'm saying?
I believe that it's a great community and the police are doing an outstanding job. But if we can come together as a community, each and every one of us do have someone that's broken the law in our family. And the problem is we do not speak up or communicate with our neighbors. That's one of the key issues. It's not that we sure the police come out, they have families to go home to as well. I don't care if you have 3 or 4 or 20 to 30, it's gonna be the same results. When they come out, they feel they're coming to the same area and the community not together. Why should they come out to try to babysit our people? We have to get together. We have to get together with like legislation on these businesses. If you say why the criminals come home and hang on the corner, they don't hang on every corner. They hang where you got these tobacco shops and these gas stations because they're scared to say anything. But we go to that same store. We know the people standing out there. We, not me, but people are scared to speak up and speak their minds and write to legislative. And maybe even some of the legislators reach out to some of these businesses and see what they're doing to cause the defendants to hang out at these locations. Because they're not hanging out in front of the churches, they're not hanging out in front of your Korean spot, they're hanging in certain areas. Every time it's the same business that they're hanging out. So it's a alarming law, but you're not going to enforce it. Someone standing there just talking, speaking to someone getting off the bus, but they're going to these smoke shops, purchasing paraphernalia, coming back out and doing what they have to do. There's no law with smoking marijuana, but there is a law. It's a difference when you roll up on someone, they have scale and they're weighing the marijuana there. That's when there's a different level of crime. And the police is seeing it, but they're not doing anything because their hands are tied.
I also would like to add, it was mentioned why they come back and do it in this area. It's an area of comfort, familiarity. A lot of people, especially I know with rehabilitation places, in some cases, when they remove the person from their element, or they, like say, go out of state, they come back, they do better while they are out of state. But once they come back and they're back to the same familiar things, the same way, they fall right back in that route. And you did mention also too, Derek, the whole thing about the neighbors getting and the families getting involved. I worked for a business that was on Coast Spring Lane and Park Heights for many years. And when the communities would complain about their employees, I said, they're hiring your children, your grandchildren. So the families know this stuff is going on. We just need for parents to parent. We need grandparents, we need aunts and uncles, gatekeepers to all intervene and basically serve to help guide and direct those. And some of them especially, and it could be someone they respect that they'll listen to. And it's something as simple as that, just saying, hey, you could choose a better way than this. And that's why a lot of, especially with our young people, that's why a lot of them do it, because no one has ever told them not to.
I think also one thing to Mr. Chris's point, my name is Brown. I actually work with the neighborhood association within the Park Heights footprint. So I'll definitely connect it. Park Lane is where your business actually situated. But I think also it's important that as much as we show up when the state's attorney is here, I think we also need to do so at the meetings that happen at the end of our blocks. Because we have some great community association leaders who they are amazing, but they also need help. And as much as these things bother you all, they also bother them, but they can't carry the weight alone. Neither can BPD, neither can it take attorney. It takes all of us. And as much as we own here, we rent here, we have businesses, we all have to take equity and stop here. I moved here from DC. I built my house here in Park Heights. I love my area. Some people may see it as a crime-ridden area. I love it. But I show up for meetings. I make sure that my voice is heard. I make sure that I'm making those connections. I'm having those uncomfortable conversations to at least plant a seed to say, you know what, I hope that this seed will eventually bloom into something better, to where somebody whose name I may not know, but they're gonna know my name. And they're gonna know that I did my part. And I think that's one thing that we all individually have to commit to before we continue to just complain. It's time to get to action. And to your point, Ms. Patrice, you know who these people are. I may not know them by name, but I'm pretty sure if I show somebody a picture, you'll say, oh, that's Jean's little boy. Well, guess what? If you have that relationship, have that conversation, whether it's on your block or not. That's all.
And the schools need to support as well.
It's a big, it takes community. It's all of us.
Other thing I will say, if you see them hanging, then don't be afraid to call the police. Part of that is because when the police officer judged by, well, must not be any quality of life crimes because no one's calling. But I know sometimes you don't call because you feel nothing's happening. We're going to happen. If you call, then it allows me to have the conversation to say, look, we really need to pursue, whether it's the citation docket or whatever in this area because they're having these problems. And so I think that's very, very, very important because the police also can't police if they don't know. And so you've got to give them the opportunity to say, well, they did call. They did say that it's the same kid every day, the black suit and the red Nikes. And they see them with this bag, going to this book bag, this car, and it's the license plate. You give the police the opportunity to look to see what's going on. And then they see them out there selling drugs or doing whatever, then they have an opportunity to remove that person and things like that. Well, you're right. It has to be everybody together. Nothing else, please understand that. And we can really make the change. Once again, like I said, I've had the opportunity to come to the community a number of times over the years, and room didn't always have this many people. And the simple fact that you see this many people are really caring and concerned, then I can really say, you know what, this is a neighborhood that's one of us. I can tell you guys want to make that change. I think that's the first thing. We're here to help, we're here to support. City Attorney's Office, we not lead that charge. That's not our job. But when the police make the arrest, we're going to hold those individuals accountable. If you have your communities association, if there's a person who's a problem, the police make an arrest, reach out to my office and let us know, because that is the type of person we'll focus on that case to say, okay, this is a person for whatever reason keeps slipping through the cracks. Now, but this is a person we're going to really focus on and make sure we hold them accountable. Juveniles. They are children, but we still got to teach them right and wrong. We got to give them guardrails and things like that. And so even with the juvenile cases, let us know what's going on. I'm the first person to say, if we're doing something wrong, let me know so we can fix it. Because once we fix it, then we can go ahead and be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
Somebody had a question in line, Serena. Had a question online about the citation.
He's kicking me off.
I think he was asking whether like was there.
The question is, does the citation docket program specify age limits? The frustration for most of us is often misstated. It is spoken. I think they got cut off.
No, you can scroll.
In terms of youth, and these are adults that are making adult decisions.
Well, yes. Those are my same issues as well, because citation docket is for adults. And that's 18 or above. Juveniles totally different. How we deal with the juveniles, how we interact with the juveniles. Look, one of the issues that I do have is, I mean, when you have it, the police make an arrest of a juvenile, then one of the things they would do is take this juvenile to DJS. So I'm explaining the way the juvenile system works. Totally different than the adult system. Adult system, let's say the police see the juvenile steal a car, stolen car, the police stop them, make an arrest. Then, you know, this is a person who then will go down to central booking, see my team, my office would make the recommendation, and the commissioner would either hold them or not hold them. And then the other thing is, then the judge will either give them bail or not give them bail. The case will proceed in regular course. We reach out to victims, witnesses, prepare the case for trial. That's the adult system. Juvenile system, same car stolen. Let's say now they see the juvenile. Juvenile could have been the one driving the car, about to charge him with theft of the vehicle. However, that case doesn't come to us in the regular criminal justice system. That case goes to the Department of Juvenile Services, DJS. DJS makes a decision to, one, release the young person, to call their parents to say, maybe I'll place them on electronic home detention or just release them straight to the parents. Or they will go ahead and potentially say, we're going to forward this case to definitely have it charged. Well, one, if it's a felony, that case must come to our office within 15 days. However, most of the young people will be released back into the community. When they're released in the community, the first time, depending on the charge, they may not have electronic, bracelet or anything on their ankle. However, the second time, let's say they caught in the car, the second time, the step, then they could have an ankle bracelet. And they send them back home, because the purpose of juvenile system is rehabilitation. But let's say now they're a third time and they have an ankle bracelet. Under the DJS system, the commissioner, Bessie Tolentino, stated that they will hold young people if they're caught, if they're on electronic home detention and they have pick up a new charge. They're now told to hold those young people in detention. Part of the problem is not enough detention centers. Part of the problem is not enough programs and things like that. And so dealing with young people is totally different. So there is a mechanism to give young people citations. However, my understanding belief is under the consent decree, they cannot do that. We're still talking, trying to figure that out. I know the talking to the police commissioner, they've reached out to DOJ to look at and maybe change some of the formality and some of the things that they have to do with under the consent decree. So we're still talking about trying to work that out. But with young people and the juveniles, it's a lot more difficult, it's more technical. But I want everybody to understand that individuals that are supposed to have the say with young people is DJS. Yes.
So my name is Ariel Winfield. I am a business owner on Ricestown Road. When you mentioned something about when you walk past the problem, it allows it to snowball. I agree with that. It was an incident that happened about 2 years ago. It was a gentleman, he, came back home or whatever, and he was like standing outside, and I went outside and I'm like, what's up? How are you? He's like, I'm good. I'm like, what you doing? He's like, oh, just chilling. And I'm like, you can't chill right here. Like it's children, like I share, my salon is actually, it shares with the All Things football field. So I'm like, you can't, be right here. It's children, it's right here. I have, guests that come from all over the state, honestly, Pennsylvania, whatever, Baltimore County. I'm like, it's not a good look. We're in Baltimore City. It's just not it's not a good look. I'm like, they look at it like the hood, and that's not what we're giving. You can't here. He's like, oh, what you gonna do? You gonna call the police? I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but respectfully, you can't be here. And honestly, like, magically, he understood that he could not be there. It was some incidents that people were parking their abandoned cars and right in our customer loading zone and parking, and I called 311. We got our customer loading permits or whatever, and that stopped happening. And it's like I have a free library for the children to come like read the books or whatever. Also the Saints community, they had like a STEM there as well for the children, and I kind of see that it's magically growing into a beautiful community from what I see, so yeah, so I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing, because I think the biggest thing is that you guys want to work. You're about you doing the work. It's about you caring for the community, you caring for the community. See, you guys are here. I think if you all look, y'all part of the fabulous. So I mean, we just here to call for support once again. We last, by the time you get to us, it's problems. You don't want y'all.
What is being done when, okay, you see that there's traffic at that particular spot? But then across the street, there's a patrol car that's sitting there for hours surveilling them, I don't know, what's to say about that? I mean, it appears like though they're addressing the situation, but there's nothing that you can see physically that's being done. Is it because they're surveilling it, or what? Is that just a rest stop? They're just there? It just looks like they're doing something? I mean, how is that?
That's the question. Of course, I can't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that was like a line on the, like the strategy meeting, because, one of the things you all brought up was like, why, you know, when there's like people staying on this corner in front of the gas stations, like, officers will roll up and people will like usually move, but that's not really solving the problem, obviously. But that's been like a Band-Aid, and I feel like if it were up to me, like if I had the power, like I would have like a 2 or 3 person per day, like kind of like not a unit, but like that are tasked to go to those places and write citations, identify people. But that's not happening. Like at this point, what's happening is like, you know, we get calls for, let's say a repeat calls like 5516 register or 5440, which is I think members like this, and we'll show up, people will move, and then we'll leave. And then they come back and the call comes out like 30 times a day. And officers are frustrated. I don't think they're frustrated because they have to go there all the time, because it's an easy call to go to, right? You don't have to do much. But it's frustrating because we go, but I think as someone over here said, it's like our hands are tied because just to tell people to move from an area isn't exactly, you can't force someone to move from an area unless the store owner or whoever wants that. But the second we get there and talk to the store owner, they're like, I didn't call. And then, or, I don't think there's any either incentive, maybe it's from leadership to write the citations.
I know where.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
I'm frustrated too, but
No, I understand. I'm frustrated. But that's why I said, I want you to go to these commander meetings and tell them you want citations written. Because to me, when I got elected, I ran on Kansas State Attorney's Office. We went from 145 to 200 plus. Offices, we're bald. We doing what we needed to do. I said we're going after violent crime. Was 300 plus murders, now we got 109. We done put a lot of really bad murderers. Not even, see, I didn't even tell y'all the number of people who we put in prison who are murderers and killers. First 2 years before I got there was 157. My first 2 years was 275 murders we put in prison. And we probably put, by the end of the year, it'll probably be another 100 and some. That's 300 and some killers are off the street. So we kept that promise. The next one was quality of life. I told the police, hey, whatever the law is, enforce it. But however, they're not. I've done everything I could. We didn't train them. We didn't done everything but hold their hand. You have to be the one. As y'all are gonna have to go to these meetings to say, hey, we want citations. When you say that, then it goes up the chain. I meet with the police commissioner at least once a month. I said, what's going on with citations? You know, the perfect example. They said, well, we go, we give them a warning, they leave, but they come back. Well, you can write them the citation there, but they don't have a license. Only thing you need to do is take one time and you say, oh, you ain't got your license, you ain't got your license. All y'all come with me and let's go to Central Booking. Oh, here's my license. Why? Because they probably got warrants. So I can't make them do that. However, I can only provide. My dad used to say, you take a lead a horse to water, I can't make it straight. And so at the end of the day, I go to the communities, I have the same talk. It don't matter where I've had this conversation. If you say we want the citation doc, they will have no choice but to write it. Because the other alternative is we just gonna start arresting people. And we know what happens in Baltimore City, we can start snatching, arresting people, because that's what got us in the situation with the consent decree. There had to be an alternative. I'm saying, meet me halfway. We're not gonna arrest you. or we're gonna have you go in our communities and clean it up. Think about it, the police wrote 20 citations, right? And they come, and they 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings, they clean up Park Heights. So you wake up at 7:30, your street's clean. And you didn't pay for it. And guess what? It's gonna probably take them once to like, first of all, I'm trying to hang out Friday night. So now I gotta be here at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're working. That's what I'm saying. We can really make these changes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Quick question. Have you found any correlation with the reduction of, like, let's say, gun trace task force officers who are obviously a part of the problem as well at some point in time? Have you found that looking into the police department has led into a reduction of crime that is associated with some of these areas where they were operating? I mean, you can reduce murders, large percentage, but does that have any correlation with the participation of members in the police department that are overseeing some of these open air drug markets? Like you see a cop, we see the people dealing drugs, right? So the cop that's sitting there sees the people dealing drugs. So I have to either correctly or falsely assume that officer is either involved, ignorant, or blind, something. So with the increase or the decrease in murders, and hopefully the heightened awareness of officers who have been involved in these operations, is there a correlation with that to where we can, as a community, start to look at some of these officers as well? It would seem like there's some type of correlation.
Well, I would tell you this. I actually played a role with the gun trace task force, open expose all that. I was the defense attorney before I became this guy. And I will tell you that I've seen a big change in the police department. I was a lot of body camera footage, and the way the police would act before and how they've acted, they've been trained a lot different. Plus, you have a lot of younger officers who also, they didn't come up through that, they didn't see it. And so they're really trying to do the right thing. I think what happened, the pendulum swung where the person who had the job previously said, we're not gonna prosecute that. And almost they had a war with the police. So the police were like, look, we ain't really getting to all this. They didn't seem to be as progressive, as policing, I would say, as aggressively as they possibly should have. I think also you have supervisors that say, this is what we do. We just sit you there, you sit in that car and you don't do anything. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing as well. I think some of it is just the tactics. That's why I keep saying, you go to CRC meetings, that's where they talk to the commanders and they're talking to them. I think when you go and explain what it is you want, that they're hearing it from you, then it goes up to the commissioner. So when the commissioner had that conversation, I'm saying the same thing that everybody on the ground is saying. I think that's part of the issue, is that you still do have a police department that's in transition. But also I realized that you had officers who ever written citations. Let's be honest, since Freddie Gray, we kind of really ain't been super focused on what's going on, holding people accountable, because we had to get through all that craziness. And we had to go ahead and get to where we are now. Now we're saying we're going to hold people accountable. So we don't want to go back to mass incarceration. Baltimore is going to do so much where I feel like we're finally really coming out of it. You have young people who've never ever been held accountable, ever, because they're like, I don't do what I want. And so you're dealing with all of that. So I have some archers who may be sitting, like, ain't getting out there. I'm just going to walk out. I don't want how many days. It's a combination probably of all those things. I can't talk to the police tactics. But what I can talk to is that if they write the citation laws, see it. If they make the arrest laws, they're proceeding. If the law's on the books, you bring it to us, we're there to proceed. Now that don't mean that we send people to jail for it, like trespassing. And yeah, you keep trespassing over and over and over and over again, and you just not getting it. Then unfortunately, you got to spend a weekend in jail to get your head straight. However, we are here to sit down and say, you know what, this is a person who's so that's why I'm saying we're trying to do something new and different. And people are always a little resistant of that. I'm not stopping. I believe when I go to the this what y'all left me for. And I'm trying to push it because we're not going back to mass incarceration. But we're also not going back to walking past.
My point is saying that just as we try to hold ourselves accountable in the community, which I think we naturally should be, I think we should always keep that same equal accountability for the people who are supposed to be doing the job.
and having some type of open, role of police officers in our neighborhood, what the effectiveness of their job is, how many citations they're writing, how many, call it crime of life or quality of life. The consent decree was great and actually had a part in, raising that for the community, but I think we as a community do something that continues to put that pressure onto the police to allows them to do their job. Because one of the things the consent decree does say, we should be writing citations. And that's the part, look, I can't tell you the frustration I have, but it stopped it, because I do believe in it, because people leave the city because of quality of life. And my feeling is we have a great city, but we're on the cusp of losing so many people from the community, and our taxes go up, those homeowners and things like that. What are we gonna do to stop that? That's
provide the brick and mortar and the front access for illegal activities to happen. Is there anything on the books currently, present day, that community can kind of come around to build a case and say, hey, this business owner knowingly knows that there's an area drug market. They're carrying drug paraphernalia in their inventory. And if so, what is that process that we can then start to have those conversations?
so you can target the police and things called padlock laws, or eventually the police will start the process and show, what, we're gonna go ahead and get a padlock, and eventually you no longer operate your business because you haven't done the thing. So that's why I say when you go to the CRC meetings, talk to the police and say, hey, look, we got this business right here. They're constantly, they let the kids come in and out selling drugs. They let this happen, let that happen. Police know it too. And then that shows that you're very invested in what's going on. So it's a call.
I'm really encouraged for what I'm hearing from you, and I have seen the difference. Sometime probably 15 years ago, I did for 2 years the exit interviews with the Baltimore City police officers, and I talking to them directly and giving them feedback, good ones, the ones that had the community relations, the ones that had the skills and compassion and empathy. They were leaving because of the fact they felt their hands were tied and they wanted to go back home to their family. Someone said it earlier, they're husbands and fathers and they want to see, and that compassion was there, and they basically would do their 2 years and they would leave. But what I heard and back then was, the PAL centers, officer friendly. And then we went from that really close engagement within the schools where kids wanted to be officers. They were the heroes to this whole zero tolerance. So we went through several years. It's like they're hanging on a corner, lock them up, put them away. And it broke that trust that, the officers were there to protect us, to be a model for us and all that. And I'm glad to hear, because I have seen that with some of the officers I talked to. They're more empathetic, they're trying to go a different way. They realize the way that had been done in the past wasn't the right way. And I do feel that just as much attributes to why the numbers are going down. So I applaud everyone. So everyone is kind of stepping up and trying to bring that change. Not everything we did in the past was wrong. We didn't have to clean the slate. We should have just examined what was working then and kind of let it move forward and progress and evolve.
We had 2 questions, the lady in the back, and then. You're doing that first.
So really quick, we're homeowners with Park Heights Association, and thanks for having us here. And relate, so if I saying anything that was already said, I do apologize. But I am not of Baltimore. And so getting ready to purchase here, there were a few Baltimoreans who were like, don't buy it, it's dangerous, all the things. And so I've scouted the neighborhood quite a couple of times, and they're humans. There are humans that are in my neighborhood who might be on drugs or might be doing whatever. But the way I see it is I'm hearing a lot of, and again, I relate, so I apologize, but I'm hearing a lot of like citations and like, how do we get these people off the streets? But as a person who was falsely convicted for 6 years, I had to live with that label. And it makes it very difficult to move within the system and to try to do right once you have been labeled that, right? And so my question is, how are we, or what is going on in the community to help those individuals? Because instead of saying like, oh, we need to give them a citation and lock them up, how do we get them out of, here's what I'm gonna tell you. Once you get labeled that, it's almost impossible for you to do anything, from getting like support for housing, to getting jobs, to getting all those things. So it leaves you almost no other opportunity but to be on the streets. So what are we doing to help them beyond saying like, you're an eyesore for my neighborhood? How do we act, what's being done in the community? And I apologize if that's already been stated, but that's more so my concern, because they're still humans that need to be, you know, addressed, not just locked up.
Real quick, let me say this. Let me explain the citation document. So the police, when they come, they see you loitering and trespassing, having drugs, they write you a citation. There is no arrest. Then you come to court, do your 5 hours community service, your case is dismissed. And never in the system, it doesn't work like that. So there is no stigma with that. What it does is, you come, we're now directing you to those services that you may need. So let's say it's drug possession. We have inpatient and outpatient drug treatment programs that we've partnered with to give those services. Let's say you don't have your GED. We have programs we partner with to direct you and push you to get your GED. Let's say you have some mental health issues. We have programs we partner with to deal with mental health issues and things like that. But let's say you just need a job. We have programs we partner with. So I understand what you're saying, and I get it. Once again, I've been first turning 20 years, so I understand. I see what happens. It's hard. It's really, really hard to get a job. I get it. And you're right. Once you're labeled that, it's almost impossible. But how do we find that middle ground that holds someone accountable, but without giving them that record because they may have just fallen down needing help? That's how I do the citation docket. That's why, for the life of me, I can't understand why it's not used more often. Because we've got all the resources there. We just need the people to come. And so, you know, I know other programs within the community. Were you going to talk about some?
Yeah, we have a workforce development program at Park Heights, and we do hire people who have distressed backgrounds, where other employees will not. And if we don't have a position available, we have other partners like Roca, We Are Us, We Rise. So we try to find resources if we don't have something available. So I guess it's a matter of having that resource available to the individual to know that, hey, we are an employer who will help with full benefits. It may not be the highest paying job, but it's a start. And then we get ready to start a cohort as well. We're bringing people in to help them to direct to the different resources where they will get a stipend, they will learn different trades. And we can get them with the electrical trade, the plumbing trade, or whatever they want to desire to do.
So is that something that we're offering them at the time, or are we just giving them a citation?
No, I mean, that's,
you understand what I'm saying?
Because
if I don't know to ask that question, how will I know that that's a resource?
Usually when you go through the system, I'm not gonna say, you have reentry programs. And some do go straight home on the box, and they itching to get outside. So we have people who work with us, who are still in the box. And we're still employing us today. We don't have enough to employ everybody, but there are resources, people that can be receptive to receive. So there are, not all employees do offer that, but we here in Park Heights, we do offer that. If there's a position available, they can definitely go to Paying Green, they can do whatever they want to do, and they understand it. They can just say, hey, I want to start this right here, and I want to go to VOL, go through this. We have job in the community who offers free wealth. We have partnerships with different trades to help them reach their goals. So we're gonna do all we can, even down to mental health. Different ways to help them reach their goals. We're not just here as a community development, but we have different avenues, even the business development as well. You know, business has been here or new business is coming. We help them do an assessment. We help homeowners, you know, with the healthcare of their home. So it's different resources, but people are not coming or being receptive. And we push this all on our website, on social media, or just call. And we don't have the resources to say, hey, we're not having the time, but hey, I have a part that you can work with. So it's resources out.
So just to piggyback on that, our Q program, so we have recurring qualifications, and that's what PHR is. This is our comprehensive background services around public safety, beautification, to highlight those spots that have been left out. So anybody, it's like a whole preventive care. You already get incarcerated, come out the program, Park Heights resident, employee, a person that just happens to convene in Park Heights. These services are and will be available through all the due process. So the as we go down the corridor, we're doing plain green things, and we are us in the Safe Streets group. So we also have our workforce development partners. That's the way that Park Heights is looking to be, because we're the quarterback of the community. They're not leading the charge. Here, it's PHR, we are looking to lead the charge, to collaborate all the partners, the stakeholders here at the table. We're going to do that on a weekly, monthly basis. So we're connecting them with on the leadership team, as far as your associations, coming to our clean and green programs, coming to these public town hall meetings. So there's going to be different touch points to get in touch with PHR. If you're a business owner, if you're a resident, there's different touch points and opportunities. This is the process that we have to get started. And not just doing the citations, but it's a great way that we all can exercise our voice, because documentation. That's going to get us to where we need to be. It's going to make sure that we stay in order in different ways. Unless they get us where we need to be, because documenting our process. If we don't have any documentation, we can't say that this person ever did it or ever did anything. It was never standing in front of my building. If we have a sign that says no loitering, that's like your first barrier as a business owner to say, you're not supposed to be in front of my space. You don't have to tell them physically, you have a sign that tells them. If you don't do anything with signage, if you don't document that somebody was standing here at any time, if you don't do 311 because the light is out on your block, and then the whole block is dark at nighttime, it get dark earlier. But these are opportunities and tools that we can use 311 to shine some light in the shadows. And then 311, you can call and say, hey, there's kids that are here doing out of school hours. We have some different, through our hippie program, maybe we can identify the kids, and talk to that parents at their schools, different ways to kind of get back, at least that community touch points.
Let me speak directly to the question though, because these programs you would have to know about if you were out. Your question is, if you got a citation and you went to court, you went to citation docket court, you get in front of the judge, and she gives you the 5 hours. Our programs would probably be in the next room. The judge tells you. We also have programs that you would know right then and there. You wouldn't have to get the citation, go and do the 5 hours, then be out. Like, no, the judge tells you we have these programs available right here. You're going to get these 5 hours, but in the other room, we can learn about where you can get them. This. We don't let you leave the court without you knowing that these programs are there.
We got a comment from Raina. Community is on PHR.
Hi, everybody. I'm Serena Thomas. I'm the Director of Community and Stakeholder Engagement at Park Heights Renaissance. I know you guys have heard the term CRC many times. Just want to make sure that everyone's clear. That is the Police Department's Community Relations Council meeting that was being referred to. We're in 2 police districts. So the Northwest District monthly meeting is on Thursday, the 2nd Thursday of every month at the Northwest Police Station. The Northern District Community Relations meeting is on the 2nd Wednesday of the month at 7 at the Northern District. So if anyone has any questions or about that, I want to make sure you're on with that information when you leave tonight, because it is open to the public, and it would be wonderful for you to raise those concerns with the police department at those meetings.
Both of them are hybrid also.
Yeah, so and if you give us information, we can make sure you get connected and get those links if you need to join virtually. But by all means, show up in person if you can. It's always going to be a better experience and a different and more personal experience if you can be there.
Can you or someone share where the district line is? You know, what separates?
Hey.
Really?
Serena.
So
Yes, ma'am.
actually, when
Does
it
anybody know the
redistricted,
answer to that?
Northern pushed further over to Central Park Heights. So the line divides probably right there at, I would say, starting at Belvedere and right when you cross over, not even Cold, yeah, like right at Cold Spring. And that line's right there, but it kind of zags because Tawanda is still part of North, even though Tawanda looks a little bit northwest, but it used to stop before you got to Bellwood. So now it includes Central Park Heights all the way down to Liberty Square.
So does it run the distance of like, it runs north and south or east and west?
It runs, so the line runs north and south,
Okay.
but it divides east and west probably at Cold Spring Lane, Cold Spring and Ricetown. Going that way would be north, starts northwest.
Okay.
So, but you saying that which district, like, Northern District is,
East of Ricestown, east
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Cold
yeah, it's
Spring
east
and
of-
west
yeah,
of
east.
Ricestown is northwest.
Northwest is west, right? And Northern is coast.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's kind of close, because they actually, it's so close that sometimes they get called, both of them will go.
Yeah.
They're still trying to learn.
And the website, the police website does define exactly where the lines are. If you can't figure it out, you can call us. Yeah, it's on the website.
Tarina, just let everybody know too, we met with the police department yesterday and we're getting maps to help communicate this more effectively because it's not just straight lines, it's very cut up.
Right. So CEO Jiggets wanted to let you guys know that she met with the police department yesterday, and they are putting together new maps so that we can get that information out. It's not as cut and dry as a straight line, but just so that folks will be very clear on where the lines are. So we'll have that information. We'll probably be able to share it on our website and at our community meetings.
Thank you all for.
Anything else?
No.
I do have a question.
There another question?
I do have a question. If you can hear me, I didn't want to
Yes.
type it in, but I do kind of wonder the support for the violence interruption programs from Mr. Bates. I was just wondering if there is a strong support. Like I heard the compliment for the Safe Streets members that were in attendance, and I definitely appreciate that. I'm sort of an advocate for the small guy, but the job that these violence interruption programs are doing is just huge. It's huge. And not only, with Safe Streets, as you guys have mentioned, We Are Us. And then there's also some faith-based organizations that have their own programs going. And I was just trying to get his input on those programs, and not to have a confrontational type of moment, but to have a clarity type of moment on whether there's a strong support for those programs, whether it be the program or just the work that is produced by them.
Did anyone hear the question? Anyone not hear the question? Okay, so I just want to make sure that everyone's clear. Essentially, Tavon, who's online, wants to know from the state's attorney how his support is or against perhaps violence interrupters at the community level. Yes, and resident.
Yeah, I have support for the violence interrupters. My issue is not the violence interrupters for the programs. My issue is there has to be transparency and accountability. My problem has always been, if we're giving $4 million to a group of individuals, I need to understand at least who these individuals are. I need to understand what they do, their checks and balances, like any other job. Like my people, when they come, what time do you go to work? What do you do? What does this whole process look like? I don't necessarily agree if you just say, oh, trust me, we're doing our job. Well, everything else, they're matrix. I get judged on matrix. What's going on? If this was 350 murders every single year, y'all would say you're not doing your job. And so it's time to go. But if you tell me, give me the money and I'm going to let it happen, but I don't understand what's going on and I'm part of the process, I'm your partner, that's my only issue. My issue is a transparency and accountability. I do know, like I said, I know that brother. I know his heart. I know what he's done. I know a lot of good brothers. Remember, I represent a lot of brothers and sisters who were part of the violence interrupters, Safe Streets and other places. I know who they are as people. So it's not questioning what the work they do. Mine is questioning the transparency and the accountability. I always got to treat everybody the same. And to me, it's so much easier and better if everybody knows what's going on. Everybody wants transparency and accountability. That's the only reason I made those questions. Did I answer it, Tavon?
Well, it does, but I was more or less looking for whether or not there could be a strengthened bond between you guys. If there's some, I understand you're asking for clarity, and maybe that could create more support from you for them. But I'm looking at the work that they're doing. These organizations that are doing work on the streets, that we're seeing literally more than we're seeing the activity from the police officers. And I'm not taking away from the police officers in no way, form, or fashion. We appreciate their visibility as well. But we are literally seeing these guys do this work. And again, not to go back and forth with you about it, you have your point of view. But because I am literally seeing it, not because I'm supporting my friends, but I'm literally seeing the work. I'm literally walking with We Are Us. And I'm just wondering what could be done to create that level of support where we're not, as a community, seeing the top heads of our city at odds about whether or not these programs are doing the job. See, some of us are looking at whether or not you guys are supporting them, and some of us are looking at just the work. And, you know, when you have people who are just judging by the work being done, such as myself, then you have these type of questions that will always be in the back of somebody's heads. But then you also have citizens that are literally getting results from this work, and they don't even want to give the credit to these guys because, you know, hey, some people are saying that they're not good, they're not doing this, or they're gang members, or, you know. So I was just, the question wasn't an aha moment or a gotcha moment. It was more or less just wondering where and how can we get that full strengthened support for these guys, because they are doing great works.
No, and I'm not denying that they do, but you also have to look at it from my point of view. When I have individuals getting arrested and they're coming before the court and saying, oh, I work for Safe Streets, therefore, you know, I got a good job, I should be released. And then I'm like, well, how can I tell if you work for Safe Streets? And we try to find out and you won't give me that information. That hurts that program, that organization. So from my standpoint, like I said, I support them. I've done many walks with We Are Us. I've done all those work. I agree with they're doing great work, but also I recognize there are certain things in the criminal justice system that I see that other people don't see. And if I'm just asking for accountability and transparency, that's all. Never trying to attack anybody. I think I've always said, I believe in the work that programs are doing. I see the work that brothers and sisters are out in the community doing. I know what's going on. I still have a lot of people I communicate with in the city that are on the front lines doing that work every single day. So without a doubt, I support them. I just had one issue. And once again, if you're coming into court and every time I look around, someone else is getting arrested and they saying, oh, I work for Safe Streets, I work for this organization, they're trying to now use that organization as a get out of jail free card. That doesn't look good on that organization. And I'm just trying to find out, do you actually work for this organization or what's going on? That was the only issue.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I appreciate your response. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tavon.
So. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you so much. Look, y'all were absolutely phenomenal. I have no doubt y'all are gonna do great things in the community. And anytime you need some help or need anything, just please reach out and I'm there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Some art, copies, to get a copy of the art.
Signing off, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Take care.
All right.